Okay, welcome back. Here we are. We're picking up where we left off. In the last video, we marked up our new menu system. And in this video, we're going to create the styles that will make these navigation bars that we're going to have across the top of our page look a little bit better and function a little bit better. What we're going to do is start here in our style sheet. And I'm going to just put some blank lines at the top here, and we want to come to the very top, and we're going to begin a different layout structure for our CSS file. We're going to start with our HTML element. We're going to just create one line here, so we'll call this the font size. We're going to make it 16 pixels. Now we don't really have to declare that because the default size for most browsers is a 16 pixel font size, but we're going to declare it here because by declaring the font size with the HTML element, then that will enable us through the rest of our styles to use the rem unit measure for all of the sizes that we need. Now going back to our HTML files, we remember that most of the time we've been building our CSS based upon things that are within the body section. But remember that body is a child element of this top level HTML tag right up here on line 2. This is the main. This is the parent element of all elements on the page. And so what we're doing is declaring that the font size for everything that falls within the HTML element is going to have a font size of 16 pixels. Next thing we'll declare here is we want to set a value for the body. The body is going to be restricted to have a margin of 0. Now just to remember, down below we have a CSS declaration here. We have a selector already for body. So why do we want to declare another one for body? Well, notice that in this declaration for body that there is no value here. There is no property set for the margin. As you recall from when you were learning how to do CSS markup, you remember that anytime that you have one attribute that is mentioned more than once, that the values in the last one will always override. And that's true. It's just that here in this one, we're not messing up anything because the selector here for the body selector is not changing anything that we've declared up here on line 3. All we're doing on line 3 is saying that for everything that falls within the body, that the default value for margin for everything is going to be a 0. Below the body declaration here, then we're just going to leave our selection here for box sizing border box. I'm just going to restrict this, pull it back up to one line. That way we'll save a little bit of space on our page. And then right below this, we're going to put in our first new style for our new menu. And I'm going to put in a comment here so we can remember what we're doing. I'm going to set up the heading boxes for the top nav menu bars. Now I just type that in this text, but what I'm going to do, click in here anywhere, it doesn't matter where, and then I'm going to hold down the control key and then tap on the / key, and that converts that entire line into a comment. Now you could just as easily have come in here right before the line starts, and I use the keypad for this, but I type a / and an asterisk in the space, jump to the end of the line, and then reverse that with an asterisk and a / space, and that does the same thing. So you can do it either way. It's just that by clicking in it and using control / it turns it into a comment and you don't have to do all of that keyboard work. Right, so right below this comment line, then I'm going to type in the selector here that we want to use, which is for the class of founding ducks. Now go back just a moment to Constitution, And you remember that we have a line here for founding docs that's declared in each one of our 3 menu bars. So this is what we are styling, the founding docs line. Each one of them has a title, like our founding documents or articles of the U.S. Constitution. So we'll come in here, founding docs, and build our properties and values. We want a font size here. We're going to make this a font size of 1.5, and then now we'll use REM, so that means relative to the root value. So 1.5 times whatever it is that we show up for the HTML font size. Next, we need a background color. So we'll have background color, and we can just make this no red, no green, but every bit of blue that it's got. The next color, we want the font color to be white. We're going to make the font weight 600. Text align, we want that to be center. Margin for the top, probably don't really have to set this because we've declared it already above that everything within the body section is going to have a margin of 0. But we're going to set this one here, margin on the bottom, so that nothing else is going to overwrite this. Bottom margin is going to be 0. And then the padding within this block is going to be of 0.5 REMs. And just save that, Control S to save. And when you do, then you can see now that we've changed each of those 3 lines that we have here into those blue bars. Now what we're seeing here is that we're getting an exaggerated initial letter, and that's because we had a rule that was carrying over from before, and it was telling us, just to show you here real quick, in Constitution, this line that we have here, our founding documents, is a line that's based upon a paragraph. So we need to come to our style sheet, and if you remember what we did before, we built a pseudo element here for the P first letter and make that a large. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. We don't need that style in there anymore. And while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and delete the styles that we created for these hero images that we used in our earlier assignments. Just take those heroes out. We don't need them anymore. Control S to save. And now you can see that the initial letter for each of these 3 lines looks a bit more normal. So we'll come back to our style sheet. After we create the founding docs, then we're going to come down and we're going to begin the sticky nav that we're going to put at the top. Again, I'm just going to click in that line and press Control / to turn that into a comment. And the comments that I'm putting in are really there for me to help me find where the code is that I've put in, as well as to explain this to anybody else who may look at it, what's going on. I'm going to create a class here for sticky. And I'm going to cause this to be position : sticky. Top is going to be 0.8 rems, and the background image, it's an image that's in our images folder. Images, it's called waving flag, and it's a GIF file. We want this though to not repeat, so we need to have a background repeat property that says no repeat. You have to declare that or it will repeat. Background size of this image needs to be cover. And that's all we need for this one. Control S to save. Nothing has changed yet because in the work that we did in our last video, we have not yet assigned the class of sticky to any of these elements, but we're going to. So let's go ahead and move down below what we just created for sticky. And here, we're actually going to begin working on the flexible nav. So I'm going to put a comment in here, begin flex nav. clicking this line anywhere, Control / to comment that line. And here I want to have a selector to the nav links, just to come back over to our Constitution file again. The nav links that we are declaring here are supposed to be right here in the opening UL tag for each of these, and it looks like I forgot to put that in there. So UL, and then we're going to have a class equals nav links, and I'm just going to highlight that phrase that I just typed. Control C to copy that, because I need to come in and put that in for each of the opening UL tags. Control S to save. Now we'll come back to our style sheet, and here in the nav links we want to have a display here of flex, and this is where we declare flex. So this object, this class, is going to be the object that we say is going to display as a flex object. Now we want the settings for flex, especially wrap. Flex wrap, we want this to be wrap. We want the background color here. This is one where we want the background color to be a little bit transparent. So we're going to use RGBA. We're going to set these values to every bit of red the computer has got, but no green and no blue. But what we want to do is make sure that the red that we have is only 80% transparent. So we will come in here. And then the next one, we're going to make the color again to be white. Padding is going to be 0.5 rims. 0.5 again. You may recall that whenever we are setting values for padding or border or margin, then it's always just like hands on a clock. We always start with the top. So we have top and then right, and then bottom, and then left. But if we want to declare just two of the values, then we declare top and bottom at the same time, and then left and right at the same time. So what this is telling us here is that 0.5 rims means the amount of padding that we're going to have on the top and on the bottom. Both of those will be 0.5 rims. But the padding that we have on the left and right will be 0. So the next one, this is one of the flex settings, and this is going to be justify content. And we're going to make this space between. We want the margin here of the top to be 0. Just setting that so that it doesn't get changed anywhere else. Now we also need to come down. First of all, let's just go ahead and save this to see what we've got. Control S. We're getting there. We need to change the values that we see here for each of the links themselves. For the LIs that we declared, we need to change values for these. And then for the anchor tags themselves that exist within those LIs, we need to declare our settings for these. And this is where we're going to use those pseudo classes that we often see used with anchor tags. So what I'm going to do is come right down here again below nav links. Create some white space in here for me to work. First thing I'm going to do is use a selector that points to any nav link that has an LI, and I want that value to be list style type to be none. I want the flex for this to be a 1 and a comma. Those are going to control how they stretch or how they shrink, and then cause this to be auto. And then text align. Again, we'll just make these center. And that's all we need for that one. Now for our default value for any anchor tag is going to be text decoration, none. It's the only value that we need to have there. And now for an anchor tag that has the pseudo class here of link, we are going to change the color of that to white. The next one we need to declare is what a link will look like if it is visited. That means when you click on the link and go somewhere and then you come back, what color will that link show of after you have visited that place? Here we're going to use the color of no red, no green, and we'll use the values CF for the blue. We also need to set the value for whenever a link is in focus, and that would be, of course, when the keyboard or mouse is pointing to that particular anchor tag. And we're going to call this an outline of none, and a border 1 pixel solid. We're going to make this black. We need to declare the value for what we want the hover pseudo class to look like. If we hover over a link, we want the color of that to be no red, no green, but all blue. And then one more, and this will be the pseudo class for active. So whenever a link is in the state of being active, we want the font weight of this to change to 400, and that should be it. So we'll use Control S to save, and sure enough, there we have our 3 navigation bars, red, white, and blue. Fits the theme of what we're talking about in this one. It still is not going to work fantastic for us because we need to do some media queries. You can see here how the numbers for the amendment fragment links, how they bunch up and it looks too close together. So we need to change a few values, and we're going to do that by going to the bottom of our CSS file. What we're going to do down here is create, first of all, an @media. We're going to call this the max width of 700 pixels. And we're going to use the opening curly brace, and we're going to refer, first of all, to these ordinal numbers where we have ST and ND and RD and TH. We need to do something with these. So we're going to have those superscript. We're going to just refer to that as SUP. And I'm going to have to go back and put those into our menu because I know I forgot to put those in there also. But we want this to be a display of none. So that's that one. I press enter and come down, and I need also a setting here whenever the screen width is 700 pixels maximum. Then I want this setting to apply to the paragraphs. I want the font size and style to change to 1.3 REMs with a line height of 1.5. I want the font to be a Times New Roman. After that, I'm going to make sure that it's serif if there's no Times New Roman, and that should do that one. Be sure and notice as we build these things, the indentation and the curly braces. So this opening curly brace here is associated with this closing curly brace down here. And this curly brace closes the P settings, and this one closes the one for the superscript letters. And I need one more in here, and this is going to be the @media query for a max width of 400 pixels. And I'll show you in another time how we come up with the values of 700 pixels or 400 pixels. It all has to do with where does the page begin to break whenever the width of the browser window gets to a certain point. Here in the max width of 400, I want to declare 2 selectors. I want the amendments menu and the articles number. I want both of those to have a display of none. Let me show you what this refers to. Control S to save that. Go back to our HTML file, and we see here that in the list of all of the fragment links to the articles, one thing I didn't put in there earlier, and I'm just going to do it now, is I want to highlight and put the selector that I just created called article number, article NO, for article number. I want to come in and put that right here on the word article for each of these. So I need to select something that is unique, so I'll just select from the word article and then grab that empty space that's between the word article and then the number. This would be unique. So Control D, yes, Control Shift A, type a span, and then the class of article no, press enter, and now we have what we need, which is the span class article no for the word article, and then the number comes after that. That will work for us. We need to do the same thing down here for all of these TH and ND letters, these superscripts that we see here in the fragment links to the amendments. I'm going to have to create the SUP. SUP is an HTML markup value that causes a number to appear as a superscript. And I want this to have a class though, so it's going to have the class equals SUP. And of course we're going to have that ST right in there. Take the ST out at the end. Yep, just like that. So the way I'm going to do this is to copy this initial SUP. Copy that. I'll place it right in front of the ordinal values TH and so on. Matter of fact, I could just select all of these THs. So when we come back to our page, we see here everything looks just as it did, but whenever I narrow the window, we can see that the superscripts disappear for our amendments. When I narrow the browser window down as far as it will go, the superscripts are gone, but the words articles are still there. And the reason for this, if I press F12 to go into the devtools, then you can see here that the browser window is as far down as it will go. But here in the devtools, I can grab the little vertical lines here beside the browser window that you see inside here, and you can see what the page width is. Now, my code tells me that whenever the page size is 400 pixels or less, then we should be able to see those words articles disappear. So I'm going to get down to where we get to 400. And you can see it beginning to break. And then at the line of 400 or so, then the words articles all disappear. This is what we mean by fixing the max width or min width values based upon wherever your page begins to break. This is how we're going to continue to design this.